that Africa will, in the final analysis, have the support from the Eastern countries, as they did for our operations, to be free. I think it is important to make the points, with all respect, my brother, that insofar as the issue of us as Africans in the West is the most difficult issue. For an example, when we realize that the Western countries are not honest in every respect, it was clear that the countries that were honest were in the West. And there is a history about it. And therefore, realizing that they are sucking us, and they're doing everything. You can't go to them and talk to them and have a good agreement with them. They want always to be ahead of us, taking everything. And there came a time when there were a few countries who were working together, and it was called the countries that think alike. I'm sure some will remember South Africa and India, and the one on the, there were about 3 countries that were working together. That led to other countries realizing that we can actually work together with others. And then the 4 countries who saw that happening, which was Russia, China, India, is it Brazil? Fine. This made some of us realize that this coming together of these countries was so important, so that you can find a way to pull out of the countries that will never give you anything, the Western countries. That it was important that we therefore join, and we became the 5. These countries were thinking alike. Having seen how we have been treated, some of us were looking what was the way to get out of this problem. We saw an opportunity that Africa will, in the final analysis, have the support from the Eastern countries, as they did for our operations, to be free. That's the reason why, shortly after the ANC joined, we were, in fact, when there used to be countries that meet, what was this, a big, what was it, Big 10, Big 5, before whatever. Okay, that's fine. We were in Paris when I was very clear that I'm going to influence them to forget about the dollar. Because the dollar is oppressing everybody, including them. Let us have our own. And I calculated that the 5 countries were in fact as big as the rest in terms of the economy and everything. We had a discussion, I raised a discussion very sharply, that why are we allowing the Americans to dominate with the dollar? I said, we here, I have checked, we have the same kind of quantity of whatever you talk about. they are not bigger than us. And we all said, yeah, what a word, what a thing. We then agreed. I immediately said, if it's agreed, let us then have our own, the Brics. And that name must also name our finance. And that's how we then shook the world. Because they realized, once we said so, they said these ones are not serious. We also went further, and it was done by us first, the Africans, that when we were holding that meeting in Africa, we invited many heads of states to come and participate in our discussion, because we are now establishing our own, and we're going to be able to bring development in Africa. Now, once we did that, the next was in Latin America. They also collected their neighbors. It became a thing that whenever we have our meeting, what will happen is that all the countries nearby were taking them to our sides. They got angry, the Western countries, started to say, let us deal with these guys, because they are used to do so. They then started with one by one. They started with the comrade in Latin America. They created things that he has done that he had never done. He was actually arrested, serious things, and was put into prison. Only later to realize there was nothing. They were just dealing with him. In India, they removed the old party and brought in the new fellow whom they would be controlling. In China, they used their propaganda to say China was useless, had no money or whatever, but they were lying. In South Africa, some fellow called Jacob Zuma was taken away before finishing his what you call. They were now killing this group of 5. They then made the biggest mistake to say they are going to attack Russia. And they did. And that turned around and helped us in terms of the money that I was talking about. Because once Russia said, my oil is not going away, whoever wants to take it, he will use the rubles, not the dollar. That turns people around. And it ended up with many countries, particularly in the Middle East, where there is oil, who said, whoop, we are going with Russia. So what they did, they were doing, it has actually hit back on them. And I said, this is the way we Africans in particular, we've got to take note of. That our time has come, that we can stand on our feet. Up to now, many countries are actually, the number has been growing of Brics. It's no longer 5. It has been growing because they could see that this is the future. And it is the future from the East that will help us, not from the West. The West will always put us down. And I'm making this point because the issue of Brics is a critical issue in changing the globe. Brics, since then, even in the United Nations, became very powerful. They could not do anything about it. And indeed, not just there, even with other countries. And I can tell you, Russia in particular, because it's not a smaller country, it's a serious country. And it has been around for a long time. So, Brics, in my view, is a party that we need to look at. We have, with the Western countries, been around for centuries. There's nothing that has ever been better. Even if you could love them in whatever, but they will never help you. They will teach you their English, that's all. But they would not go further than that. In any way, we need to stand on our own. It is my belief that that time has come. We have every possibility now to be ourselves, to be together, to use our resources for ourselves, sell it to those who buy it. It is us and nobody else. I'm very happy with the stand that this country of ours, number one, has done something important when it comes to things that are dug down, or they change the system so that they are in control. I think it is making such a change that tells that if we come together, we will be the best in the middle of East and West, because we are the best. I'm sorry that I've taken your time. I was just adding to what my colleagues were saying. They say some people want to ask questions. I know they are very good in answering questions.